Hello, friends. The 734th day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. The situation in the Avdiivka area continues to deteriorate. Late yesterday evening, the Ukrainian military telegram channel Deep State reported that the Russians had captured two more villages near Avdiivka, Stepovy and Yevhenii. The enemy advanced at Orlivka, Berdichi and Tonenki. The enemy occupied Stepovy and Yevhenii, where next will the command of the Operational Strategic Group of Troops, Tavria, announced prepared defense lines, the telegram channel wrote. Already today, the speaker of the Tavria group, Likovy, confirmed that the Ukrainian armed forces had withdrawn from the villages of Yevhenii and Stepovy. According to Ukrainian telegram channels, in the Stepovy area, the Russians advanced in an area up to 2.68 kilometers wide and to a depth of 1.1 kilometers. East of Orlivka, fighting continues on the near approaches to the village, where the enemy has advanced in an area up to 2.15 kilometers wide and to a depth of 800 meters. To the north and east of Tonenki, there are battles on the near approaches, where the Russians are bringing up reserves. In the Yevhenii area, the enemy advanced in an area up to 2 kilometers wide and to a depth of 600 meters. Western experts report that the Russians continued to put pressure on all villages in the Avdiivka region. They also record the advance of the Russians in the direction of Semenivka. Deputy Commander of the 3rd Assault Brigade Joran writes that the situation near Avdiivka is very difficult. The enemy continues to carry out active offensive operations, both day and night. The main direction, where the Russians are pressing now, is the line of settlements Berdichi, Orlivka. The enemy is trying to gain a foothold in the occupied territories with a huge number of infantry. Regarding the actions of the Ukrainian forces, both our brigade and some other units not only sit on the defensive, but also implement counterattack measures, reports Joran. Today, General Tarnowski said that the defense line of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Avdiivka sector has been stabilized in the areas of Tonenki, Orlivka, and Berdichi. Meanwhile, the telegram channel of the 46th Brigade published a network of engineering and fortification structures of pre-prepared positions of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Berdichi, Semenivka, Orlivka area, discovered by the enemy. According to him, this data is available in the enemy's open sources where it was taken, and accordingly they know it. Guys, I still won't risk showing this data. So this is what the telegram channel of the 46th Brigade writes. Whoever understands that several platoon strongholds, not united by a single engineering plan into a continuous stronghold in the field, mean a maximum of a day's defense, and with corresponding losses. The Russians had the same thing near Kherson in the fall of 2022, the same strong points in the field, which were sometimes taken after one salvo, even from a mortar battery. For the enemy, this ended with the surrender of Kherson. Also, the editor-in-chief of the website Censor, following the results of his trip to the Avdiivka direction, reports that a serious line of defense of the Ukrainian troops has not been built to the west of Avdiivka, and the Russian army continues to move forward. In Kiev they say one thing, but at the front something completely different is happening. I want to say, beyond Avdiivka, no field lines of fortifications have been built until now. I saw our soldiers in Minsk in the middle of the field being attacked by Russian drones, Butusov said. According to him, no conclusions are drawn from previous failures. If the authorities cannot find builders to build at least basic rear lines of defense, if they cannot find engineers to maintain modern equipment, drones, sensors, communications, if they cannot find workers and technologists to produce ammunition, then there will never be enough attack aircraft, the journalist added. The Ukrainian military telegram channel wrote in its latest report that if engineering and fortification structures do not appear today, then tomorrow there will be no one to hold them. Meanwhile, Zelenskyy said in an interview with CNN that the Ukrainian armed forces will not be ready for defense without U.S. assistance to Ukraine. People will be ready, but the ammunition will not be ready. The brigades will not be ready, not only for our counteroffensive, they will not be ready to defend, to remain strong. It will be very difficult, Zelenskyy said. He also said that Commander-in-Chief Zelenskyy is developing two versions of a plan for how to fight further. If we get help from the United States, we can begin to push Russia back. If not, then we will have to focus only on defense, the president said. Zelenskyy also said at a press conference in Kyiv with Bulgarian Prime Minister Dunkov that Ukraine received only 30% of the artillery shells promised by the European Union. Of the million shells that the European Union promised us, not 50% were delivered, but unfortunately 30%, the president said. French President Macron said the European Union's promise to provide Ukraine with 1 million rounds of ammunition was reckless. It must be said that we did not have that 1 million rounds of ammunition. That was undoubtedly a rash commitment. The reality is that in a very short term, you can only provide the ammunition that you have in stock, or the ones that you produce exactly on time, the French president said at a press conference at the Élysée Palace. According to Spiegel magazine, German intelligence services fear that Kyiv will exhaust its stock of shells before June. Therefore, Western countries are urgently looking for options on where in the world they can find ammunition for Ukraine. According to the publication, negotiations are even underway with India, one of the countries that refused to impose sanctions against Russia and is actively buying oil from it. According to Spiegel, negotiations are taking place secretly through intermediaries. New Delhi has several 100,000 artillery shells. At the same time, the magazine mentions that India does not want to spoil relations with Russia. Similar deals could be concluded with Arab countries, which also have large stockpiles of ammunition. Experts believe that the Balkans and a number of African countries also have ammunition production capabilities. But how quickly all this can be done, and which of the countries of the global south will agree to the deterioration of relations with Russia, which will inevitably occur following the sale of shells, is an open question. At the same time, a representative of the main intelligence department of Ukraine, Skibitsky, said yesterday that Russia was able to produce 2 million ammunition last year, and this year it plans to reach 2.7 million. In addition, Russia received 1.5 million shells from North Korea. By the way, Bloomberg writes today that North Korea is accelerating the pace of arms supplies to Russia. South Korea estimates that Pyongyang sent about 6,700 containers to Russia that could hold about 3,152mm shells. The outcome of the war in Ukraine could be decided in the coming months, and Putin could win, said European diplomacy chief Joseph Borrell. Putin and Trump have not won yet, but they can win. Europe must wake up, El Pais quotes him as saying. He called on European Union countries to increase and speed up assistance to Ukraine. Let me remind you that Borrell said earlier that the situation in Ukraine will be resolved in 3 months. At the Munich Security Conference, the head of diplomacy of the European Union was asked about whether Europe has the means to end world conflicts, including in Ukraine. Borrell made it clear that there is no time left for the current approaches to the problem of Ukraine. I don't think people at the highest political level, the intermediate level, and public opinion understand that we are in a situation that requires a very different approach. Not just, let's see next month at the Council of Foreign Ministers. No, in 3 months the situation will already be resolved on the battlefield, the diplomat said. Friends, preparing these daily reports has become my full-time job, and I have no other job for obvious reasons. There have been few views on the channel lately, which is why I ask for your help. If you have the opportunity to support me financially, I would be very grateful. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.